Prince Harry makes strongly admits about wife Meghan. The Duke of Sussex spoke with activist Patrick Hutchinson. The Duke of Sussex says he had no idea that unconscious bias existed until living a day or a week in my wife's Meghan's shoes. Prince Harry made the frank admission as he joined activist Patrick Hutchinson in a video conversation for GQ magazine. In June, Patrick went to Waterloo with friends to act as a peacekeeper during the Black Lives Matter protests that took place in London that month. The image of Patrick lifting a white counter-protester over his shoulder to safety went viral around the world. Speaking about that moment, Patrick said, "It's not black versus white. It is everyone versus racists." During their video chat, which lasted over half an hour, Harry spoke with Patrick about his actions that day, hailing it as one of a guardian angel and what we need to do next to further anti-racism. Harry told Patrick, "And unconscious bias, from my understanding, having the upbringing and the education that I had no idea what it was. I had no idea it existed. And then, sad as it is to say, it took me many, many years to realize it, especially then living a day or a week in my wife's shoes." He later added, "I think one of the most dangerous things is people within positions of power. Whether it's politics or whether it's the media, where if you're not aware of your own bias and you're not aware of the culture within your system, then how are we ever going to progress? How are we ever going to get to that point where there is more fairness? Because it's not a zero-sum game, right? Everyone benefits if the black community gets treated the way they should be treated." Earlier in October, to mark the start of Black History Month, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex called for an end to structural racism in Britain, as they penned an article for the Evening Standard. Harry and Meghan also spoke with a group of young leaders from the Queen's Commonwealth Trust to discuss fairness, justice and equal rights in July. The Duchess also recorded a powerful message in support of the Black Lives Matter movement, as she addressed the graduating 2020 class at her old school, the Immaculate Heart High Street School, in June. Patrick and his friends Jermaine Facey, Lee Russell and Chris Otokito have since set up UK United to Change and Inspire, an organization to champion equality, which will focus on class, race, education, mental health, reform, youth development and disability issues. Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, spoke to Black Lives Matter supporter Patrick Hutchinson about how the experience of living in wife Meghan's shoes changed his views. Prince Harry has admitted his privileged upbringing as a member of the royal family meant he had no idea unconscious racial bias existed. The Duke of Sussex said it took him many years and the experience of living in wife Meghan's shoes to recognize the issue in a chat with Black Lives Matter activist Patrick Hutchinson. Mr. Hutchinson rose to fame after he was photographed carrying an injured white man to safety during a violent far-right rally. The personal trainer's actions were repeatedly praised by the Duke. The two men spoke to launch British GQ's Heroes Festival, the men's magazine's annual summit of ideas, culture and thought leadership. Chatting from his home in Santa Barbara, California in the US, via video call, Harry said, "No one's pointing the fingers. You can't really point fingers, especially when it comes to unconscious bias. But once you realize or you feel a little bit uncomfortable, then the onus is on you to go out and educate yourself because ignorance is no longer an excuse. And unconscious bias, from my understanding, having the upbringing and the education that I had no idea what it was. I had no idea it existed. And then, sad as it is to say, it took me many, many years to realize it, especially then living a day or a week in my wife's shoes." As the son of the Prince of Wales, Harry had all the privileges associated with his position and was educated at the exclusive Eton College. He went on to train as an army officer at Sandhurst. The Duke and the Duchess have spoken extensively about race in recent months. In an interview and accompanying article in the Evening Standard to mark Black History Month, they said there was a lost generation of people of colour whose contribution to UK society will remain untapped as long as structural racism exists. The Prince and the personal trainer were brought together by GQ as part of its content to support Black History Month. Prince Harry urged people of all backgrounds to get involved in racial issues. He said, "This is a global movement. The train has left the station. If you're not on it now, then get on it because there's so much that we can do. And being a dad myself, the whole point in life, I guess, for me, is to try to leave the world in a better place than when you found it. Harry said, once you realize or you feel a little bit uncomfortable, then the onus is on you to go out and educate yourself, because ignorance is no longer an excuse. And unconscious bias, from my understanding, having the upbringing and the education that I had no idea what it was. I had no idea it existed. And then, sad as it is to say, it took me many, many years to realize it, especially then living a day or a week in my wife's shoes. Harry said, Meghan and I spoke to him, Banjo, shortly after that whole process, that whole moment in his life and Diversity's life. But what was interesting there, from what I was told, was that there were a couple of thousand complaints that came straight after the performance. Harry also gave his thoughts about saying the wrong thing after Mr. Hutchinson told him, everything is up for discussion. Because there's so much to talk about and people need to not to be afraid. I think that can be a part of it. For some white people, I think they can be afraid. They are scared of saying the wrong thing, possibly. The Duke said, not everyone's going to get it right. And from what I've seen, people are desperately trying to get it right, and even when trying to get it right, get it massively wrong. And as long as everyone comes at it with an element of, as you say, compassion, because it is scary for people. And it is the case that you're probably going to get it wrong, you just jump in both feet first. And you may still get it wrong, but I guarantee you there'll be the right support structure and people around to go, you know what? A word of warning, maybe do this and don't say that. The image of superhero father Mr. Hutchinson rescuing suspected far-right protester Bryn Mawr during London race violence in June went viral around the world. He was described as representing the best of human behavior by INPs, and his daughters said his actions will help to create a brighter future. Last week, Harry said the world was in the midst of a global crisis of hate and misinformation because of social media. But the Duke said now more than ever there was an overwhelming desire for truth and the media had an important role to play. He made his comments during a Time 100 talk with wife Meghan, who spoke about how bad voices on social media were so loud and damaging. She admitted she and her husband don't speak tech but said they know the experience of being a human being. And the pain and suffering and joy that has come from this World Wide Web. Earlier this month, the Duchess of Sussex appeared to take a sideswipe at the royal family, referring to Buckingham Palace as the institution. Meghan also admitted her decision to leave for the US was not a popular one but insisted that it was the best one for her herself, Prince Harry and Archie. Referring to her determination to make the world a better place for her son, she said, at the same time I am cautious of putting my family in a position of risk by certain things. And so I try to be rather very clear with what I say and to not make it controversial. But instead to talk about things that seem fairly straightforward, like exercising your right to vote. Referencing motherhood, she added, it's interesting because my gut is that it makes you more courageous. It makes you so concerned for the world they are going to inherit, and so the things that you're able to tolerate on your own are not the same. For you go every single day, how can I make this better for him? How can I make this world better for Archie? And that is a shared belief between my husband and I. She added, as a parent I can enjoy all the fun and silliness and games with my son. But I wouldn't be able to feel proud of myself as a mom if I didn't know that I wasn't doing my part to make it a better place for him. On her plans for the future, the Duchess said she was excited to be back home in the States. And enjoying engaging and interacting with people with boots on the ground back at home. Thank you for watching. If you like our video, would you please help us like, share and subscribe our channel. Wish you happy to see our videos. Thank you very much.